let's dive into the news. So the first story comes away with PC Gamer, Matt Padgett over at PC Gamer. Rumor, Call of Duty is heading back to World War II according to supposed leak. We can't confirm these images are real, so for now we're pretty skeptical. You may have already seen the Call of Duty World War II leaked images, but if you haven't, here's the rundown. YouTuber The Family Video Gamers posted a video where he talked about a handful of images he received from an anonymous source. These images point to this year's Call of Duty game being set in World War II, and they even suggest the name will be called Call of Duty WWII, Roman numeral for 2, obviously. Now, there's reason to believe that Call of Duty would be taking the series back to the Second World War, as Activision said in February in an earnings call that Call of Duty would return to, quote, its roots. However, it's important to remember that this doesn't mean the aforementioned images are real. In fact, it makes it easier for someone to pass off these fake images as legitimate art. So practice skepticism. I thought this was an interesting story. The industry has been talking for a while about this kind of a snap back on. There was a point when people were done with World War II shooters, and we started going future, modern into future anyways. And now with all of these basically jetpacking, future sci-fi shooters, people want these military games to go back to World War II and more modern shooters at the same time. And I don't think this is that far flung. Maybe the images might be fake. I don't understand the name, but then again, we had Battlefield 1 last year, so it doesn't surprise me if they would call it Call of Duty World War II. So maybe not actually World War II, but WWII, right? Do you guys, is this kind of like it's going to be World War II? Does this change your mind about buying Call of Duty at all? Because for me, it doesn't really, so...
This actually, for me, confirms that I do want this. If it were anything else, I probably wouldn't have. And I do want to point out that there was a poster and the box art, that were the supposed leaks.
Steelbook. Yes.
Steelbook. Sorry. Yeah. It's
Same
worth
thing.
pointing out that it looked to me, for my novice historian eye, like it was Normandy, which is important because the last Call of Duty World War II game, World at War, was all Western Front stuff in Japan, from what I remember. The last Eastern Front focused game was like Call of Duty 2, like at Xbox 360's launch.
That sounds about right, yeah.
If I'm remembering correctly. I could be wrong, but it's been a while since we've had
about three.
Video game
3
level.
was World War II, wasn't it?
I think you're right, but then no one played it or something. 2 is like the one I remember.
Dom
I don't
didn't
know.
play it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know 2 because that's what I got when I first got my 360. The first game that came with it, right? That and like NHL, whatever the hell it would have been, 05, I don't know. Anyway, I'm stoked for this because that's exactly where I wanted to go, and I hope this is true because that is the only thing that would have gotten me to finally go back and play Call of Duty this year. So I'm pumped.
Yeah.
For me, if anything was going to get me to play Call of Duty, it was going to be Black Ops 3 with that cool futuristic vibe and all the customization options they were offering and Treyarch making it. And I got close, but I still passed on it, and I think I'll still pass on this. I think it's not even the Call of Duty thing. It's more just the the big-scale war game, military war thing that I'm not into. My brother got Battlefield 1 for Christmas, and I just haven't even tried it because I'm sure it's a great game, but it's just not my deal, and so I don't think this is pushing it over the line for me. So
Pumped.
I think in the past I would have bought this just because I think the multiplayer would have been fun, but for me, I love Overwatch and I love Smite and I love all these other games that I try to commit enough time to multiplayer-wise. And Call of Duty multiplayer just doesn't do it for me anymore. The Call of Duty 4 remaster came out last year, which is one of my favorite games of all time. And I didn't buy it because I personally voted with my wallet and I didn't feel like paying $80 for a game I didn't want and a game I did want.
Can we admit
right?
how wrong everyone was that they were going to, one day release that standalone? Where the hell is it? Free money.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Well, they still might. We're not even a year out, but I just think that they should have done it by now.
Yeah, and so I didn't even buy that, right? And what I heard, a couple of my friends who did buy it, because they didn't decide to vote with their wallet, or I guess they did, however you want to look at it. Anyways, it seemed like it started off as just a remaster of the classic game, but slowly they actually started updating the multiplayer and adding in all of these requisite packs and all of these new features that the new Call of Duty had in its multiplayer. And to me, that completely gets rid of any reason for me to ever play that game now, because I wanted that classic multiplayer feel, and if they're just injecting all of this new stuff into it,
tainted it
I
with
just
their
could care
nonsense.
less, right?
Damn it, Activision.
Yeah. So looking at this game, I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, I would love to play a multiplayer World War II game for Call of Duty, because they are solidly made games, right? The gameplay is phenomenal. But I'm like, the multiplayer just isn't there for me anymore. I don't like the requisite packs. I just don't like any of that stuff. I've never been a fan of zombies. I think it's a poor man's horde mode. I don't like Call of Duty zombies at all.
Poor man's horde mode. Call of Duty Zombies is a poor man's horde mode.
To me, personally, I don't
so
think it's that good.
Wow. So wait, when Avengers Infinity War comes out, is that like a poor man's Independence Day or something? I don't know.
No. The reason I say that is because
I'm trying to make a stupid joke and I'm not succeeding.
I think it's quality and everything, but for me, it just doesn't do anything special. It's not a special game mode to me. It just is busy
Nazi
work. I just really
zombies.
don't like it.
Who the hell combines those things?
It's genius. It does nothing for me. Anyways, so multiplayer does nothing for me. I can't justify paying $60 on the campaign's probably gonna be great. I can't justify paying $60 for a 5-hour campaign. It'll probably be good. I'll probably rent it from like a Redbox or something. I just can't justify paying $60 for a game in which, if it was only a single player campaign, I might be able to justify that. But the fact that there's also multiplayer included, and I'm basically buying half of a game, that doesn't sit right with me personally. So it's just not for me. I think I'll rent it and I'll play the campaign. I think it's cool that they're not doing Future anymore. I think people are burnt out on it. That you've heard this boots on the ground mentality, which people don't like, the jetpacking and all of this stuff. It's a little too fast paced, I think, for a lot of people. A lot too much verticality, as I would say. But we'll see. It's going to sell tons. People think Call of Duty's going to fail. This will probably put Call of Duty back on top. It'll probably have its best sales year in like the last 5 years, because that's how it works. But the next story here, last week we talked about April's Games with Gold, and it was a very solid list, probably one of the best lists of the year, if not the last year and a half or so for Xbox. We have the PS Plus games for the month of April. I'm going to go through them. What?
I said yay.
Okay. So I'm going to go through the PS3 games, then I'll go through the Vita games, and then I'll go through the PS4 games. I'm not familiar with 4 out of these 6 games, so Jordan, feel free to chime in when I mention the game. So first up on PS3, we have Invisimals: The Lost Kingdom. Correct me if I'm wrong, this is a game that required you to buy like the PlayStation camera, right, or something like that, or it wanted you to?
Yeah, it's like an AR game, and apparently the guys who made these games came out when Pokemon Go came out and were like, yeah, well, we used to have a game about catching critters on our platform. It's like, dude, shut up.
The second game available for PS3 is Alien Rage Extended Edition. Not too familiar with this game. I don't know if you are, Jordan.
I haven't heard of it.
Next up, both these games cross-buy with PS4. So you're technically getting 4 games for your PS4, which is great. These are both the Vita games. 10 Second Ninja for PlayStation Vita. Like I said before, cross-buy with PS4. Any familiarity with this, Jordan?
Yeah, I saw that pop up when it came out, and I was actually thinking about buying it. This is another one. You know, people talk about this a lot, where people say, "Oh, well, I'll just wait until that one comes out on PS Plus." Sometimes that kind of does work out, where it's a game that you just don't really feel like buying, but you kind of want to play, and then you just kind of wait around, and it pops up like Little Big Planet 3 or whatever, and you know, it works out with the best for everyone. So I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. But yeah, this I'm just down with ninja games usually in general, so yeah, I'm cool with this.
The other PS Vita game also cross-buy. So 10 Second Ninja cross-buy with PS4. Curses and Chaos PlayStation Vita cross-buy on PlayStation 4. So I don't know what the wording specifically means there. Maybe you guys can explain that to me. What's the difference between cross-buy with PS4 and cross-buy on PS4?
I have no fucking clue what that means.
Maybe it's just a typo. I don't know.
Yeah, I think you're getting both versions either way.
The next 2 games for PS4, one of these was actually recently a Xbox Games with Gold game that I loved. I think it's a fantastic game. The first PS4 game, Lovers in a Dangerous Space-Time. This is a local co-op and single-player game that you basically man a ship, and there's different controls on the ship, and obviously local multiplayer. Each of you can go and run around the ship and control each of these different machines. One of them moves the ship, one of them moves the shield, one of them moves the gun that shoots. So it's kind of doing that kind of stuff. In single player, you have a companion that you can assign to certain machines to do that for you. Great game, great arcade fun. Just one of those cool pick up and play games. You can be listening to a podcast or just want to hang out and just, not a lot of narrative there, but it is a fun, cute game. I think it's a great game. Really fun. It's kind of like Overcooked, except your marriage will probably be intact after you finish playing it. The second game here is the most interesting game. It's a game we've heard about for a long time. Drawn to Death. This was originally supposed to be a free-play game as part of their free-play model, and they saw how badly that's failed with a lot of games, the free-to-play model, and it's not a very sustainable structure for a game. And I think they worked with Sony a lot, and they're like, let's just bring it out. It's kind of like a free-to-play essentially, except you're paying for PS Plus, but you know what I mean. You're not paying for the game itself. So it looks like a very interesting.
For a mini Rocket League situation, since this is exclusive, it's got it's got a big multiplayer element. I think it is just multiplayer, and it's David Jaffe, who's been making PlayStation exclusives for a very long time, and so I'm excited to see if his game succeeds, on the PS4. And I really like the art style. I really like the creativity of the style of the game and how characters fight each other on this notebook paper. I think it's like a kid's notebook in school or whatever. But yeah, since it is just multiplayer, I'm wondering whether, how much I'm going to play it.
Yeah. I think overall it's a pretty solid list. Personally, I think Xbox's list is a little bit stronger, but there are some definite really solid games on the PS Plus list this month. Like I said, Lovers in Danger, Space Time solid. Drawn, what is it called again?
Drawn to Death.
Drawn to Death could be an interesting game. It looks very interesting. The aesthetic's cool. So we'll see how those games are. And anytime you get cross-play games and cross-buy games, it's awesome.
Love it.
More value there. The last story here comes away of IGN. I think this is the most interesting story that I haven't seen anybody cover, which is strange. This kind of went by the wayside. It popped up today, but on all of the sites, I had to dig a little bit on IGN to even find it, and a lot of the other sites weren't even covering it. And that is BioShock creator Ken Levine compares new game to a much more ambitious Shadow of Mordor Nemesis system. So right there, the headline alone is very interesting. I'm going to go into Joe Scribble's story, read through it, and then we'll talk about it a little bit. We're running a little long, so we want to be a little quick on the news section. Ken Levine has discussed some of the influences and comparisons with his as yet untitled first game for new studio Ghost Story, which we talked about them rebranding a couple of weeks ago. The creator of BioShock has previously said that his new project aims to be a replayable narrative and cited Middle-earth Shadow of Mordor's Nemesis system as a major influence and kind of the sort of direction he'd like to take it in. In an onstage interview, Levine once again brought up the action RPG as an inspiration, but added that his new game would take the idea of a reactive narrative much further. The game that inspired me most, that we were maybe onto something on the right track, was Shadow of Mordor, with their Nemesis system. That was a very limited, rudimentary approach to it that covers a very narrow area. It's more of a meta narrative, and there's not a lot of dialogue support for that stuff, so our thing is much more ambitious. That sort of gave us okay, maybe we're not completely crazy in what we're trying to do. Levine called the process of a game openly reacting to a player's actions radical recognition and explained its importance to the new game. One of the most important things about what we're doing now is this concept of radical recognition, that if the player does something, the game should, as often as we can, recognize that accomplishment or failure or whatever it is and find ways to have the world feedback that it cares. The heart of that is something that's central to our game. Once again, Levine explained that the project will not be a narrative game in the way Telltale's projects are. They're still built on a different model, sort of a branching structure model. Our game is a deeply systematic game, underpinning everything from gameplay to narrative. To be able to then have a narrative that seems traditional, like our games BioShock or System Shock 2, one of those kind of narratives, but can react and comment on much more small level actions that the player takes. That's our goal. And the last part here is the most interesting. While Levine still won't discuss the game in a particular open way or even reveal a title, he continued to drop small hints throughout the talk. Other facets of the game he discussed included that it will be more like BioShock than a Bethesda game in the way it was set in a smaller, highly detailed world. that while there was nothing quite like the new game's sci-fi narrative, there are probably similarities to be drawn within System Shock 2. That Levine's been inspired by the industry's recent trend towards not trying to please all players, allowing for more challenging games with communities built around unlocking their secrets. So overall, I think this is really crazy. It's really interesting. Ken Levine, one of the biggest masterminds behind video games. Obviously, he's responsible for BioShock. I think this is really cool. It's very interesting. It's nice to see him not only take inspiration from Shadow of Mordor's Nemesis system, but understand what he specifically and his team want out of it. It's not just a blind copy and paste. I like that they're taking the approach of not necessarily a Bethesda game, but a BioShock game where they said it's a smaller world, more detailed. This gets me really excited about their next project. I don't know what it does for you guys.
Real quick, where the hell is We Happy Few?
Yeah, it's
Are we ever going to play that game?
Yeah, it was announced last year. It was in early access, and then it's supposed to be coming out this year. Hasn't been on that long of a road.
I feel like it was announced before last year.
No, it was announced at last year's E3. It was one of the bangers for Microsoft.
Oh no, it was definitely. I remember seeing footage before last year's E3. They just started like talking about it because they had like alphas and stuff before that.
Prove it ticket.
I'm not too sure.
I definitely remember We Happy Few before last year's E3. Anyways, this just reminded me of that game, so I was wondering if I'm ever going to be able to play it, kind of like Below and Cuphead. Anyways, I think this is really great. I'm a huge BioShock fan. I think whatever Ken Levine does, I'm going to be interested in it, and I'm going to be there. But I definitely feel like it still kind of sucks the way the whole thing went down with Irrational after BioShock Infinite. But I am happy to see him, involved creatively in this new project, and it seems like we're getting closer and closer to a reveal, since they've now revealed their new studio name and all that.
Man, if this is one of the Xbox exclusives, that'd be insane. That'd be crazy.
Yeah. I hope not. I hope his games are just proliferated, because I think he has the types of he tells the types of tales and has the type of messages in his games that I want more people to experience. But yeah,
everyone should be able to play Ken Levine games. I agree with you there.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, from what we're expecting out of Xbox and stuff, it would be insane if they brought him out on stage and he announced the title for his game there, and it was an Xbox.
I could see it because
right.
Not that I necessarily
want
see
it happening, because he just started his own studio essentially, right? So he might need the capital to get this off the ground. And an exclusive deal could be it, but I hope not too. I hope, yeah.
And the weird thing for me is, obviously Mass Effect now is multi-platform, but I still associate those first 3 games with Xbox, just because obviously the first one was exclusive. I think the first 2, I could be wrong about that. I don't remember when exactly they stopped being exclusive. And with BioShock 2, it was multi-platform, but for some reason, I always think of it as a 360 game. Obviously, that's where I played it, but for me, it always resonates as an Xbox game. So it'd be interesting to see if that happened. Just for clarification,
BioShock 1 was
exclusive for a while.
A 360 exclusive, and then once PS3 came out, they did a special edition for PS3.
Oh, okay, so it was initially an exclusive. Okay, I wasn't wrong about that. Just for clarification, Jordan, you were right. Well, we were both kind of right, technically. So, We Happy Few was first revealed in February 2015 at a PAX, but then it disappeared, and then in in June 2015, it started a crowdfunding Kickstarter. But the first time it was actually shown off to a massive audience was the Microsoft press conference. So you were correct.
Was their big coming out for sure.
Yeah, you were completely correct on that.